Hey guys, Ghazzy TV here with another Path of Exile 2 video, and in this one I'm going to talk about what I deem to be the best minion ascendancy class that you can choose for Path of Exile 2 Early Access this Friday, 6th of December. The discussion has been very clear. We're doing this live on stream, by the way. Basically, the two classes that people are comparing is the Infernalist versus the Gemling Legionnaire. Those are the two classes we're going to be comparing. And before we move on, I'm going to make sure we can do this uninterrupted. I'm on to you guys. I know you guys can't be trusted to not do this when I'm doing a recording. So, let's talk about the Infernalist. The Gemling Legionnaire first. We have 1, 2, 3 connected on the first left-hand side. The number 1 is 10% quality of all skills. This seems to be a very strong thing, a strong modifier. Jonathan himself has confirmed that the quality of gems is more of a end-game kind of approach or mechanic to the game, where GCPs, the currency used to increase quality of gems, is an end-game thing. Another part here is number 2 is +2 to all skills, or +1, sorry, which is located in a 4-point connector, which is super important because of the general Venn diagram that a lot of people have seen. And that is the Venn diagram I'm referring to is, I'll actually illustrate it for you, boys. So I'm going to show you how the Venn diagram looks for the sake of PoE 1. So what a Venn diagram looks like is like this, and then we can take a red one, and we'll do this. And then we can take a purple one, and we can do this. Essentially, what we have here is minions, for example. We'll do this. Okay, that's a little big, whatever. We'll do this. Minions being in... I forgot to put the actual tags here. Gem level, links, and gear. Okay. Minions will be located here. Obviously, every build wants to move in to the middle spot. They start with having gem level scaling and links being the more important features to ramping up minions in general. You have things like, for example, spells being more in line of being in this position. And then you have, for example, attacks, if I can... Right, is more in this corner when it comes to PoE 1. Knowing this, and knowing that the vast majority of things in PoE 2 will work the same way and scale the same way or in a similar fashion, with this information, we can then assume that when it comes to the topic of minions, and we are going to be in this position, both gem levels and links are very important. This means that the plus level of skill gems is extremely important and very, very strong. Now, we do have the perk of number 5 in the Infernalist, turning you into Demon, giving +4 based on the leaked information we've seen to all your spell skills. But there are other problems with that, which I'll tackle in a bit. Number 3 on the top left corner is less cost of skills, and then they have skill gems have 30% more attribute requirement. The Viperesque and one of the GGG devs have gone out and confirmed that there is a huge difference between cost of skills and reservation cost multipliers. They are separated, which means that the 30% less cost of skills does not make you reserve less of your, for example, minions. So this note is completely irrelevant, but the first two are really strong. Next, we have the number 4 on the right-hand side, 2-point connector, which is giving you 3 additional skill slots, which can be used in your general other non-minion builds as utility slots, if you will, but also for the sake of minions, if you were to play that, have more minions to play with. This connects to 5 and 6, and 5 gives you the possibility to use 2 copies of different support gems. So the way in PoE 2 will work with skills and the support gems is that if you have one, say, multiple projectiles, you can only have one of those skills on any of your skills in total of your set of skills that you're using. This would allow you to have 2 different skills having the same support gem, which is extremely valuable. It also connects to number 6, which allows you to get plus maximum cold, fire, lightning rest, and resistances based on how many of the equivalent colored support gems that you have socketed in any of your skills. And every 4 blue is 1% cold, every 4 red is fire, every 4 green is lightning. By the way, I want to point out that this is switched for, because in PoE 1, green support gems is cold, or green is cold, and blue is lightning. But in PoE 2, it's opposite. So blue is cold and green is lightning. I'm not sure why they decided to switch that. The other 2 notes in the Gemling Legionnaire is 7 and 8. 7 gives you the possibility of attribute requirements of gems being satisfied by your highest attribute. completely irrelevant for this topic in this video. And number 8 is then also completely irrelevant because inherited bonus from intelligence, strength, and dexterity are doubled. That basically describes the general consensus of what you get from the Gemling Legionnaire, and the notes that is going to be attractive and mandatory should you play a minion-related Gemling Legionnaire will be to grab the number 1 to get quality, number 2 to get plus level skills. That's 2 notes out of 4 total that you can get, because you have 8 points in total and there's always a passive in between. So that's half of your ascendancies. It's going to be 1 and 2. Next one will obviously be number 4. 4 gives you 3 additional skills. Now you have 1 more to choose between. You either grab 6 or 5 at this point, because the rest of the 3 is completely irrelevant for the minion archetype. 5 or 6 is going to give you that extra support gem, so you can have 2 different set of minions having similar support gems, or 6 just for defensive layers of getting you extra maximum resistances should you not need to use the other one. That is the idea of the base structure of running a Gemling Legionnaire. The most important part here is quality, level, and having more skills to allow you to have more variety or a higher variety of minions if you want to have a large set of different minions to the battlefield, and or have a large set of minions with different utility options, like, for example, some offering skills, a curse skill, maybe something that shocks the enemies, and so forth and so forth. So that's basically how the Gemling Legionnaire works, and at first glance, this was like, this is way better than the first interpretation that we have of the Infernalist, and it's going to be the best minion class that you could play for PoE 2 come this Friday. Then we got some information about the Infernalist that was not very clear. And I want to talk about the Infernalist a little bit, but first I'll mention this because to not prolong this video and stall too much, I'm just going to tell you right now, my personal belief is that the Infernalist is going to be the best minion ascendancy that you can play for PoE 2 as a minion player. That doesn't mean that you can't play it as a Gemling Legionnaire, and I think they will do very well. But I firmly believe that the Infernalist will be the absolute best choice to run for at face value based on the information that we have so far. Why is that the case? I'm going to make this a big screen and we're going to take a look at this. First and foremost, we have the Infernal Hellhound. 2-point connected. This will be your first and most important ascendancy node to pick up when you play the Infernalist. Why is this so important? First off, it's right here. Number 10, Loyal Hellhound. Every skill that you get from ascendancy nodes are skills that you can link in support and turn into 6-link support. That's really cool. Absolutely. But why is that making it so good for the Infernalist? Well, Viperesque went down and confirmed that this little piece of dog shit doesn't cost any spirit to reserve. He is literally a free 6-link minion from the Ascendancy. He is a very direct, straight copy of the Radiant Crusade node from PoE 1 Guardian, which is, well, we're referring that to our little pocket pox, since he's basically popping a Righteous Fire. The Infernal Hellhound will do the same, where it's consistently igniting enemies within radius, doing fire damage to them, but also 20% of damage from hits that you take is redirected to the Hellhound's life, so it's a defensive gain as well, and you can 6-link this guy? And he is revivable based on the revive system that they have for permanent minions in Path of Exile 2. This makes this one of the strongest early nodes that you can pick up in the game. Why do I say this? In PoE 1, the Radiant Crusade equivalent of this, which is basically a direct copy, that minion, that node, is the strongest ascendancy node in the entire game that you can play with. No discussion. Now, even if it's not that overpowered because you can 6-link it in PoE 2, it's insanely effective because it doesn't cost any spirit, it gives you the possibility to do proper damage in an AoE around it, and it works as a defensive mechanic at the same time, making it extremely effective. However, there are some downsides with the Infernalist as well. Most importantly, I will talk about the negative impact of the demon form. Now, why is that a negative thing? It sounds like it's really cool, especially as it can connect to the 6th node where you can cap the demon flame. What the demon form is doing is, first up, making you look like a better version of Lilith from D4, and essentially, you look awesome. You will have a higher cast speed, more damage output, but you take increased damage over time as the longer you stay in the form. However, the node behind it allows you to cap this, so you only take 10 stacks of this. So there is a possibility where you can sustain this form, where you're able to basically sustain being in the demon form consistently with enough investment to this style of playstyle. However, the only thing that really matters for minions here is that the demon form gives you +4 to all spell skill levels. Like I mentioned earlier with the Venn diagram, level to skills is extremely important and extremely effective. There's no that's not going to change with this form either. There is a world where we might do this anyways, but everything else the demon form doesn't help you. So you have to sacrifice something to get this. And you're not going to pop this exclusively. You will do it together with the Demon Flame, which means it takes 2 out of the 4 big notables you can pick from the Ascendancy. The reason this is important is because the other nodes you want as a minion-related playstyle of Infernalist are 2 different pathing. One is going 7 and 9. So what 7 is doing is basically replacing your mana and turning it into Infernal Flame. The TLDR of how that works is that you don't have mana anymore, and every time you cast a spell, you increase this pool, which is now Infernal Flame, and gets you increased pool of this Infernal Flame, and every time you cap that mana or a flame, you will then take fire damage equivalent to your mana and energy shield, I believe it was. You take maximum life and energy shield as fire damage, which you'll mitigate with your fire resistance, of course, and then it resets to 0, so you never have mana issues anymore. However, what's going to happen here is that the nodes on 9 is that you can get yourself to the point where, while not, 8 and 9. So 8 is when you're not on low, Infernal Flame, all damage from you and allies in your presence contributes to Ignite chance and magnitude. The reason I'm not going to be doing this, and I don't think this is a good node, is because of how Ignites will work in PoE 2. It's similar to PoE 1, because Ignites will only count as the highest damage dealing ignition is the one that's going to be dealing damage. So if you apply 1,000 Ignites, only one of those will deal damage. That's why I don't like this one personally. However, Seething Body, which is 9, gets you the possibility of that when you're high in Infernal Flame, which I'm assuming is going to be like 75% or 85%, 65% or higher, you and your allies in your presence is going to be getting 20% of all their damage as added fire damage. Allies refers to not just your minions, but also party members. So that's a really cool note. The problem with this approach is that you're sacrificing the nodes you're picking. Since you're already taking 10, 7 and 9 means that you only have one more node, which is either 8, which we already talked about is kind of irrelevant, but you might have to take it at this point, or you go for Demon Form, but only Demon Form alone is kind of shit. 11 gives you a critical strike bonus. And if the modifier does not specifically state that it applies to minions, you can, in 99% of the cases, assume that it will not work on minions. That's how it is in PoE 1. That means the only node you have left is Altered Flesh. Altered Flesh gives you 20% of cold and lightning damage will be taken as fire, so you can just focus on fire resistance to mitigate a lot of that damage taken. And also 20% of physical damage that you take is taken as chaos, which is pretty neat. This would allow you to do like a chaos inoculation kind of approach, which is a keystone on the passive skill tree that gets your max HP to only become 1, but you are immune to chaos damage, which will let you mitigate 20% fist damage, which is very good. And that's another way to play the fiery approach. I don't think that's going to be the best style. What I think is going to be the best style is to do 1, 3, 10, and then pick either 2 or 4. And why is that the case? Starting with 10 and picking out 1, you get the Altered Flesh. You can then pick up number 3. Number 3 gives you a reservation of your percent of your life. That's why you cannot use Chaos Inoculation, like I mentioned earlier, if you take 2, 3, or 4, or multiple of them. This means you reserve a quarter of your life, but you get plus maximum spirit per 25 maximum life, allowing you to have more spirit to open up for more minions that you can use on top of the free spirit reserved Infernal Hound. And then number 2 and 4, the 2 gives you another quarter of your life being reserved. So basically, you're going to turn into this hybrid style where you have energy shield covering your life, or Mind Over Matter, where all of your damage taken goes to your mana pool instead, which you can combine with Beta's Gaze, number 2, which gives you maximum mana based off your maximum life. Very effective way to double down on modifiers to get a very high, chunky amount of actual defensive layers. However, I'm not a huge fan of that personally. I'd rather have this hybrid style with energy shield life and only take 2 and 4 most likely, because number 4 also reserves a quarter of your life, but gives you plus maximum energy shield based off your max life instead. I think that's going to be the better style. So because of the fact that this class is literally giving you the approach of having a free up to a 6-linked minion that is not just a damage-dealing beast, it will also give you a defensive layer, in my opinion, separates itself so much from the other Ascendancy choices that are possible minion-related to Ascendancy choices that it's just, there's not a competition anymore. Now, obviously, this is based on a Path of Exile 1 perspective and pre-play testing it, so we'll have to see on Friday. So my initial starter plan has always been to run the Infernalist, and now I'm more excited than ever to do this. However, if we end up in a position where gearing in general puts us at a comfortable state when it comes to Spirit to allow us to use even more skills, that's when I think the Gemling Legionnaire comes into play, because of the quality, the level of skills, but most importantly, the extra 3 additional skill slots. But you're going to lose the defensive benefit of running the Infernal Hound. Like, you can't really compete with those two. The Infernalist will win in that battle, objectively and at face value speaking. That's all I have to say with this video. I hope this helped you clear out what kind of build or ascendancy choice you're going to run to play a minion build in Path of Exile 2 for the early access. I'm going to run an uncapped subathon happening, and there's actually a really cool thing where in Path of Exile there's going to be drops enabled. And by watching the stream, you can watch my stream of this for the launch as well. Besides this, we're going to be in a position where they're going to run support a streamer feature, which is really cool, and we haven't seen this in PoE before to this extent. Let me show you here on the screen. Essentially, they're going to have Twitch drops as well as support a streamer, where you can get this beast of a bet by gifting 2 subs to the stream of your choice in the PoE 2 directory now on Friday for the launch. And I'll be running an uncapped subathon. Hope to see you in the chat. Don't forget to leave a like and hit the subscribe button. Leave a comment down below the channel as well, which class you decide to play for the early access, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, stay safe and keep rocking.